Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today I have another episode of Let's Talk Tech. And today we're going to be discussing Copilot again, specifically why using Copilot Memory is beneficial for you as a freelancer. Now, as a freelancer, we all know that your brain is already doing a lot of heavy lifting. It's likely that you're switching between clients, industries, tools, tones, and priorities probably multiple times a day. And as a result, you face a challenge that isn't related to doing the work itself, but instead constantly having to reestablish the context of what you're doing, who you are as a business, how you work, and what kind of output you actually need from your AI tool that you are likely using to assist you. Now, this is where I think that Copilot's memory feature becomes especially useful. So if you're saying to yourself, Jennifer, what is Copilot Memory? Well, Copilot Memory is available as a personalization option in Copilot Chat. It allows Copilot to retain relevant information that you share with it and use it moving forward to help inform future responses. So if you use Copilot Memory, you don't have to treat every single prompt message as a blank slate because Copilot can factor in some context about your role, your preferences, and your typical work if you give that information to Copilot's memory. So for freelancers, this can turn Copilot from a one-off tool into something closer to a longer-term, more professional assistant. Now, why does this matter? It matters because, again, as freelancers, we rarely have one role or one audience. Chances are you might be writing client emails in the morning, and then if your day's like mine, developing training content in the afternoon, and then maybe putting in a late day and creating proposals later in the evening. And if you're not using Copilot Memory, it's likely that if you're using the Copilot tool to assist you, that you're going to end up having to repeat the same information again and again. For instance, you may have to, without Copilot Memory, tell Copilot with every prompt, I'm a freelancer. I often work with regulated industries. I need your output to be practical, not marketing heavy. Or assume this will be shared with clients. Of course, those are just examples and they may be different and they're likely different for you specifically. But think of those things that you are constantly telling Copilot. Now, if you tell Copilot to commit these types of things to its memory, it's going to reduce the repetition of information that you're likely putting in your prompts because it's going to allow you to store this context once, but then reuse it across all of your conversations. So how do you do this? Now, Copilot Memory operates a little differently than some other features that are typical in AI tools. And this is because you don't actually go and add the information through a settings screen, which we all know is typical. Instead, you're going to do this by just simply sharing the information in a prompt and explicitly instructing Copilot on what you want it to remember. So I'm going to suggest that you enter a Copilot prompt that clearly explains who you are and how you work. You want to make sure that it's specific and practical. Now, of course, yours is going to vary from mine, but just as an example so that you can understand the context and content of what I'm asking you to do, I'm going to enter a prompt like, I'm a freelance technical trainer and consultant. I primarily work with healthcare, pharmaceutical, and government organizations. I design onboarding programs, AI trainings, and application-specific instruction. I prefer clear, professional, non-marketing language that can be shared directly with clients. Now, I could have put a little less, I could have put a little bit more, but for me today, that seems right. I can always edit it later. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that prompt and clearly instruct Copilot to add all of the information within that prompt to my memory. So what I will enter in the prompt box is, please add this information to memory and use it to guide your responses in future conversations. And then I'm going to paste in the prompt that I just read to you. Once I select generate, I have told Copilot that this is what I want it to use to add to the memory. Now you'll see a little indication that it did update the memory, but if you're anything like me, you're going to want to verify that it really worked. So to do this, you're going to select the ellipses at the top right of the Copilot chat window, and then select Settings, Personalization, and Memory. Now, as you can see here on this screen, the information that I provided was added to my memory as expected. You can also see that the date that the memory was added is displayed. Now, if you decide later on that you really don't want Copilot to remember this because maybe you didn't articulate it quite as well as you wanted and you want to try again, well, it's really easy. You can just choose to delete the memory if it isn't working for you. Now, if you want, you can also store how you want your information presented. So for freelancers, this can often be very valuable. So for instance, I can add another prompt that says, please add to memory that I prefer concise explanations with practical examples, and I generally avoid promotional or sales-heavy language. And again, I can select Generate. You can see that it's validated, that it's updated my memory. And if I were to go in and check in the settings under the personalization and memory options, I would see that this was also added. So now that we have all of that context in memory, we don't need to repeat it in every prompt. Copilot's just going to apply it now that that information is there, unless you override it in your prompt, which you certainly can do if there are instances where you want Copilot to answer a little differently. Hopefully, this is going to save you some time, because maybe previously you would have entered a prompt like this. I'm a freelance trainer working in healthcare and government. Rewrite this training description so it's informational, compliant, and non-marketing focused. Now, because of what I've added to memory, all I have to say is simply something like, rewrite this training description to be more informational. So you can see that I have saved some time because I don't have to reiterate something that Copilot already knows. Because in this case, Copilot knows I'm a freelancer. I often work in highly regulated industries, that I prefer practical professional language. So its response is already aligned with my needs. I don't have to re-explain it. So I hope that you've bought into the benefits of Copilot Memory and realize that it does have several benefits, which do include giving you more relevant output. Your responses are going to be more grounded in your actual role in industry, not generic assumptions. You're going to experience less repetition because you're going to spend less time reacquainting Copilot and more time doing your real work. Additionally, you'll start to experience more consistency across outcomes from your projects and clients because the output is going to have a similar tone, structure, and expectation even when you switch context. And of course, one of the big benefits is that this can all help to lower your cognitive load. And who doesn't appreciate that, right? Copilot is going to start to know how you work, which is going to reduce the mental overhead required by you. So basically, how to use Copilot Memory strategically? I would suggest doing something similar to the example that we already went over. Input your role and services, the industry that you commonly work in, your preferred tone and the level of formality, any common deliverables that you often prompt Copilot to help you with, along with any recurring constraints, whether it be compliance, accessibility, or your audience level. Basically, think of what you need to give Copilot is what Copilot needs to be onboarded in the same way that you would onboard a longtime collaborator. And remember, the better the onboarding, the better the results. So Copilot Memory isn't just a convenience feature. It's a leverage tool for you as a freelancer. Because when your AI understands who you are and how you work, you get better output with less effort and greater consistency across your business. When it's used intentionally, Copilot Memory can help turn Copilot from something you prompt into to something that actually supports your freelance work. And that is a meaningful shift that we discussed here today on the freelance shift. I know, I couldn't help myself. Well, thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, please do like and subscribe. I hope to see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone.